The ethereal hum of the Grand Conclave's chamber was the only sound. Commander Eva Rostova stood on the central plinth, utterly alone, the weight of 1 billion souls pressing down on her. Before her, arrayed in a vast, silent arc, floated the entities of the conclave ancient, luminous constructs of pure energy and light, each a silent judge, their collective wisdom spanning millennia. They had no faces, no discernible limbs, only a pulsating, inner glow that spoke of immense, unfathomable power. The charge was clear, projected in glowing script across the vast space: humanity, unacceptable inherent aggression. The stakes were higher than anything humanity had ever faced. The complete annihilation of Earth, deemed too dangerous, too volatile, to exist within the ordered galactic community. The evidence is undeniable. A voice, resonating from all directions at once, echoed through the chamber. It was the collective voice of the conclave, dispassionate and absolute. Your species demonstrates a consistent and destructive propensity for internal and external conflict. From the earliest recorded history, conflict defines your existence. The data is overwhelming. The space around Eva shimmered, and a holographic projection of Earth history flickered to life. Early tribal wars, then great empires clashing, then the horrific mushroom clouds of global conflicts. Spaceships armed to the teeth, engaging in brutal, close-quarters skirmishes in the cold vacuum. It was a montage of violence, relentless and undeniable. Eva felt a cold dread creep into her stomach. How could she argue against fact? How could she defend humanity against itself? She looked at the projected images of ruin and death. Her own ancestors, her own people, perpetuating this endless cycle. Shame burned in her, but beneath it, a defiant spark. There was more to humanity than just this. Your plea, human Commander Rostova, the conclave's voice resonated. Eva's gaze swept across the silent, judging forms. We acknowledge our history, she stated, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. We have fought, we have erred, but there is another truth. The conclave remained silent, unmoving. They offered no argument, only data. To assess your species' ultimate viability, the voice continued, ignoring her partial admission, the conclave offers a final, comprehensive test. A simulation based on your own psychological and sociological parameters. Your response will determine your fate. The projection around Eva shifted. The war-torn Earth faded, replaced by the interior of a sleek, advanced colony ship. Alarms blared, red lights pulsed. The simulated voice of a ship's AI crackled. Critical hull breach. Atmospheric containment failed in sections 4 through 7. Life support failing. Core breach imminent in 60 seconds. 1 functional escape pod detected. Capacity, 1 survivor. The scenario was brutal in its simplicity. A single, heavily shielded escape pod. Only 1 person could survive. The conclave wanted to see who, in humanity, would make the cut. Who would survive? The most logical choice, the strongest, the most ruthless. The simulation began. Eva watched, her breath catching in her throat, as a diverse group of virtual humans appeared in the simulated ship. A grizzled veteran soldier, his uniform torn. A young mother, clutching a terrified child. A brilliant scientist, glasses askew. An elderly historian, frail but with eyes that held centuries of knowledge. A pragmatic engineer, already calculating vectors for self-preservation. The conclave's projected data streams pulsed alongside the simulation. Predicted outcomes, statistical analyses of survival probabilities. For each character, the conclave calculated the most logical path to the escape pod. It seemed to expect a desperate scramble, a logical triage where the strongest or most strategically valuable would push through. But that's not what happened. The soldier, instead of heading for the pod, used his last moments to seal a bulkhead, slowing the decompression, buying a few precious seconds for the others, knowing it meant his own doom. His final act was a shouted order to a young recruit to run for the pod, though the recruit was too slow. The scientist, instead of computing her own escape, desperately keyed in a data transfer, trying to upload the ship's research logs, her life's work, before the core went critical. She looked up just once, a silent plea to the universe, then her form dissolved in the simulated plasma. The engineer, instead of securing the pod for himself, worked frantically to extend a power conduit, knowing it might allow someone else a fraction of a chance, even as sparks flew and the deck buckled beneath him. The young mother, instead of fleeing, shielded her child with her body, uttering words of comfort even as the hull ruptured around them, knowing the child couldn't survive, but her instinct was to protect, not abandon. And the elder historian, seeing the single pod, simply sat down amidst the chaos, a serene smile on his face, whispering ancient tales to himself, accepting his fate, making no move to fight for a spot. He simply was. None of them in their simulated deaths made the logical choice for individual survival. They made the human choice. They chose sacrifice. They chose compassion. They chose futile hope. The conclave's data streams, meanwhile, were erupting in red. Error, inefficient resource allocation. Error, suboptimal survival calculus. Error, illogical altruism. Chaos DETCTD. The simulation concludes. The conclave's voice boomed, imbued with a hint of finality. Humanity's response patterns are highly anomalous. Their inherent self-destructive altruism and inefficient emotional processing render them unsuitable for integration. The verdict is clear. Eva's jaw tightened. She had watched it all, tears stinging her eyes, a fierce pride swelling in her chest. This was their moment. This was humanity's true defense. Stop! Eva's voice, though single, resonated with a force that seemed to momentarily ripple the conclave's luminous forms. You misunderstand everything. We operate on pure logic, human, the conclave stated. The data is absolute. Your data is incomplete. Eva countered, stepping forward on the plinth, her gaze unwavering. You see inefficiency. You see chaos. We see empathy. We see compassion. We see self-sacrifice. She extended a hand towards the fading simulation of the dying mother, the shielding soldier. You perceive our instinct to protect the vulnerable, to save the dying, to comfort those facing oblivion as a flaw. You calculate it as a loss of resources, an illogical waste of potential. But this is our strength. Her voice grew louder, echoing in the vast chamber. Every war, every conflict in our past was a crucible. It taught us the immense cost of our aggression, but it also forged something stronger within us. The desperate, illogical, unyielding need to prevent those losses again. To protect our own, fiercely and unconditionally. She pointed to the images of comfort, of futile rescue attempts. This is not self-destruction. It is the fundamental building block of our civilization. It's why we unite. It's why we innovate beyond pure logic. Because we understand the value of a single, fragile life beyond its mere utility. We send expeditions into impossible nebulae for a single, lost probe. We spend fortunes trying to cure one rare disease. We tell stories of heroism where individuals die for others, and we call it glorious, not illogical. Because that shared, irrational drive to protect the weak, to uplift the broken, to mourn the lost, that is the very engine of our collective will to survive, to thrive. Your logic would have us abandon the sick, sacrifice the old, discard the inefficient. Your logic leads to cold, sterile perfection. But our so-called inefficiency leads to boundless creativity, to solutions born from empathy, to cooperation forged in shared vulnerability. It is why we adapt. It is why we endure. It is why we deserve to exist. The conclave's collective glow dimmed, then brightened, pulsating irregularly. For the first time, Eva sensed something akin to thought, rather than just data processing. Then a new projection formed in the chamber. It wasn't the violence of Earth history, but a complex, shimmering tapestry. Human hands reaching out to pull someone from a flood, a doctor tirelessly working to heal a child. Scientists from warring nations collaborating on a vaccine. A crowded city square, people from all walks of life, spontaneously helping one another after a disaster. It was a mosaic of quiet, illogical, selfless acts. Humanity is deemed anomalous. The conclave's voice finally resonated, the verdict delivered. Not condemned, not integrated, anomalous. Our metrics were incomplete, the voice admitted, a rare, almost imperceptible shift in its tone. Your species does not fit the established paradigms of galactic viability. Your inefficiencies appear to generate unexpected resilience. Your illogical altruism creates unpredictable strengths. A new offer was projected. Probationary inclusion, study period. Potential for collaboration on anomalous threats. Eva felt a wave of dizzying relief, probation, not annihilation. We have faced threats that pure logic cannot solve, the conclave continued, its voice now tinged with something that Eva might have almost interpreted as curiosity. Existential problems that defy predictable solutions. Perhaps your anomaly holds a key. Eva looked at the pulsating conclave, then back at the image of the human hands reaching out. They had not been judged by their strength or their cunning or their aggression. They had been judged and inexplicably spared by their flaws, by their capacity for illogical love and self-sacrifice. She took a deep breath. "Humanity accepts your terms," she stated, her voice clear. The chamber began to fade, the luminous conclave slowly receding into an unknown dimension. Eva was left alone on the plinth, the silence returning. But this time it was not the silence of judgment, but the silence of a new beginning. Humanity had survived, not despite its flaws, but because of them. And now they would have to show the galaxy what true strength looked like, one illogical, compassionate act at a time.